All-American Gunslingers presenting Ubaldi Reports.
Hey everybody, this is John at Ubaldi Reports, the one podcast that provides fact, not fiction, on issues facing America, whether globally or internationally. And as always, I do the podcast with two my good friends. Both of them have served in the Marines, just like I did. One is Joe Bitts, who served in combat in Iraq, was wounded, and Ray Krause, who's also a Marine Corps veteran. And I did 30 years in the Marine Corps with 3 combat tours to Iraq and Afghanistan. And we always try to provide fact, not fiction. I mean, people may not agree with everything we say, but we're always backing it up with our facts and not putting our own opinions in. But we also have a lot to talk about, and kind of ducktailing off of what we talked about last week was the Hunter Biden scandal. And this one is corruption in Washington. Because last week when we discussed, Hunter Biden pled guilty to 2 misdemeanor charges for failing to pay taxes and one diversion program for a gun charge that incidentally would have gotten everybody else a felony, because if you look at the federal firearm form, the 4370, it specifically states if you lie at any other time on that form, it's a felony.
It's called My Daddy is the President.
Yep, My Daddy is the President. Now, with this,
for thee.
But once the he pled guilty to those 2 misdemeanor charges, and he has to make that formal pronouncement when he meets the judge next month. So we'll have to see how that goes. But it looks like it's going to stand. But
any of the stuff that's going on right now kind of going to maybe retract?
We'll have to see. I listened to some constitutional scholars, and they said that they could. They just have to wait and see. But the one thing that's come out since we spoke last Wednesday is David Weiss was the prosecutor who was prosecuting the case out of Delaware. Now, IRS whistleblowers said that, and DOJ whistleblowers have said that he had gone to try to prosecute as a felony in Washington, D.C. and in Los Angeles. And the district attorneys out there refused to prosecute. They pushed back.
Can we hold on for a second?
Sure. Can
we ask Jeff Clark, Tree, what's not true? Just throw it out there and see if he responds in the chat.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, it'd be interesting because we just got started.
We're going to just ask them because they can hear you a little bit better than me.
Okay.
So
But anyway, so these whistleblowers said that David Weiss was pushed back and was not able to prosecute and some of those charges as felony. Now, the New York Times reported yesterday, and it was in the 21st paragraph of a story, that what was the whistleblowers that transpired was true. David Weiss did try to prosecute some of the crimes as a felony, but was rebuffed by out in Los Angeles and in Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's either Jonathan Turley, the constitutional scholar, and others have said it's either going to come down to this. Either the whistleblowers are lying and the whistleblowers can be held accountable because if you lied to Congress, that's a crime. So if the whistleblowers are lying, then they should be held accountable. Or is Merrick Garland lying when he said he let this go through? His hands are clean. He let the prosecutor in Delaware, David Weiss, make that decision. So it's going to be interesting, and they're going to have to bring up these whistleblowers and see with the evidence and bring in David Weiss and the prosecutors. Did you refuse to prosecute Hunter Biden when charges were brought by David Weiss? What's true and what's not?
Yeah, and then, but the media, how is the media handling it? Because they seem to, a lot of people are trying to.
I know more about a submarine than this.
But it's like, why does the media be like, oh, it's okay because it's that? But if it were like, if it was the Trump kids, it would be a little bit different.
Well, right now, like I said earlier, you had the New York Times report on it, but they put it in the 21st paragraph about David Weiss trying to pursue more stringent charges, mainly felony. And then you had CBS interviewed one of the whistleblowers from the IRS saying that we tried to push more, but this is what we got, and they still got pushback from the Justice Department. And one of the investigators from the IRS was pulled off and was denied a promotion and a pay raise because of this. So, but slowly the media is going to have to come and address this because the evidence just doesn't make sense. Like there was after this, when he pled guilty to 2 misdemeanor charges, there was a WhatsApp was released back, I think it was 2017, showing that Hunter Biden was trying to shake down this Chinese business person. And what he said is, if you don't give us this money, my dad's sitting right next to me. We're going to go to your boss. We're going to go to the chairman. So the question is, how much did Joe Biden know? Now, the attorney for Hunter Biden said, well, it was illegal to release that information from the WhatsApp. Constitutional scholars said, no, that can be released. It's in the public domain, but they're not fighting back on it's not, that wasn't an accurate statement. He never sent it. All they're saying it shouldn't have been released.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of telling me that there's more to this story than it's being led on. But this has been going on for a couple of years now. Remember, the FBI had the laptop since 2019, and they've been investigating Hunter Biden for 5 years, and they get just 2 misdemeanor charges on tax evasion and a diversion program for guns. So the point that I want to make on that one is, this is all you've got, but what was the parameters that David Weiss was under? If he was refused access or to charge of the most serious crimes as felony, or failing to file as a foreign agent because he's dealing business dealings overseas. Remember, they got Paul Manafort and a few others using that failure to file as a foreign agent.
Why would somebody say there are no whistleblowers? Like, where are they coming up with that?
Well, I think it is because it's remember during the first Trump impeachment, they had the whistleblower was saying that Trump was shaking down the Ukrainians.
Yeah.
But the Democrats were all, we got to protect whistleblowers. These are patriots doing the good things. But now that whistleblowers are going against pointing the fingers at Democrats, it's like a far different tune, because the Democrats on the House Oversight Committee that's investigating this, they refuse to release the whistleblower statements. Every one of them on that committee refused to investigate. And then last year, the House, I think it was the House, passed a resolution trying, and was blocked by Democrats. Well, every Democrat voted no, since they had the majority, not to investigate this Hunter Biden story and the laptop story. So now it's coming out. There's more there than was let on. There's a lot of evidence. And it was all in plain view. And remember, the FBI had the laptop since November of 2019 and authenticated it. This is legit. But then remember, right before the 2020 election, it was all disinformation. So there's a lot of corruption there, and there's a lot of unanswered questions. There just is. And we need to get to the bottom of this. Did the president, because think about it. Everybody can criticize the Trump children, and they've been investigated. We all know what business dealings they were in, resorts, golf clubs, casinos. What business dealings does Hunter Biden have?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if he's doing business dealing with a Chinese energy company and he gets $5 million, what expertise did he have in China? Is Hunter Biden an expert in, or can speak fluent Mandarin or Cantonese? No. Is he an expert in energy? No. Does he know anything about Asian politics or the Asian, the Sino-Asian?
The laptop might suggest differently.
Yeah, okay. But does he know anything about this? No. And then here's a person, and now the Democrats have been fighting back. Well, this person had an addiction. We got to give him a break. Okay, but he had an addiction to alcohol and drugs, but yet he's getting millions of dollars.
There was a picture of him like smoking crack with a gun in his hand.
All right, this one. All right, so this guy, Jamie Mercado 282, has said, where is the evidence? Listen, we're providing it to you.
Yeah, I mean, there's a website dedicated to it. I tell Jamie there's a website dedicated to all the stuff that was found. You'll see a nice array of Skittles as well, right?
Well, but there is evidence. I mean, if he's talking about where's the evidence, there's the WhatsApp aspect. There's the computer laptop that was said was disinformation. It had a boatload of things. You have the New York Times said this was accurate about David Weiss. I mean, we're getting into this. I mean, I don't understand what evidence you need to have. And then you've got money coming in when they were flagged. This $5 million was flagged by the banking community as, suspicious. How did this millions of dollars and some thousands of dollars went to Joe Biden's granddaughter, who's a high school counselor. What did she do to get this money? What was the Biden expertise to get this money?
Yeah.
That's the question I would ask people. What business venture was Hunter Biden involved in?
What's the big deal about using a cell phone that's not government regulated when you're like the vice president or president?
Because when you're vice president or president, when every time you speak, that's all classified.
Okay.
And it's a way to, you're not conducting government business, and also it's a way for if you're using a not government supported cell phone, they can't track it and use it for records down the road.
Real quick, let's ask, maybe Vinny wants to hear you explain too. How does Jared Kushner become a billionaire?
Jared Kushner become a billionaire?
Yeah, he said, how did Jared Kushner get a billion?
He did business ventures in different parts of the world.
So he was like a businessman prior to working.
He was a prior business, but all the Trump children, Jared Kushner, Eric Trump.
Never worked a job or did anything in their life when it came to that, right?
No, these guys, anybody who says that, the Trump children and even Jared Kushner, who's the son-in-law to Donald Trump, they've all been looked at, spun around. They've been ever since Donald Trump was run for president. They were looking and they haven't found anything.
I believe Vinny wants us to go to a re-education camp because that's the only way when he says it, we should be sent to a camp.
Well, I would just tell Vinny this. Tell me where my facts are wrong. Anything I said right now in this last 10, 15 minutes, tell me where my facts are wrong.
So, and I
I'll admit,
agree.
if I'm wrong, I'll admit I'm wrong. But tell me right now where my facts are wrong.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you could put a link in the chat somewhere where we can look it up.
I mean, I would just say, tell me where my... But I know that the people that criticize what I'm saying never criticize what the Democrats have done.
Well, no, they're perfect, remember?
Well, look at John Podesta. He was one of the key architects of Hillary Clinton's campaign. He did foreign business dealings. Same thing that Paul Manafort did. But Paul Manafort got convicted, not John Podesta wasn't looked at. I mean, when they look at everything about Donald Trump, and if Donald Trump did something guilty, he needs to be held accountable just like anybody else. How come nobody looks at the Clinton Foundation? Isn't it kind of odd that they received hundreds of millions of dollars across the country, across the world? As soon as Hillary Clinton lost the election, all donations to the Clinton Foundation dried up. There's no mention of the Clinton Foundation. They may not feel like a little odd at that.
No.
So it's just like even classified material. Everybody should be held to the same standard. Why is Hillary Clinton different? Why is Joe Biden different than Donald Trump? And even John Durham even mentioned in his report and incidentally, John Durham got a high recommendation from Eric Holder and Janet Reno. These two were Democratic attorney generals. So he even mentioned, look at the investigation, how it was like full speed ahead with no evidence after Donald Trump. And even the FBI violated its own standards by altering evidence. That was Kevin Kleinsmith, altered evidence, submitted it to a federal judge, lied to a federal judge to get surveillance warrant on Carter Page. So the FBI, James Comey, can leak classified material, take classified material. Andrew McCabe can leak things to the media. Everybody else does the same thing, and you're held to a higher standard. Why is that?
Two-tier system.
So this is where the people have this two-tier justice system. They say, because anybody believe if you failed to report over $1 million and transaction from a business venture, that you would not be held and be able to plead guilty for a misdemeanor? It would be a felony. Ray, you're big into the gun charge. If you read the 4370, I read it again just to make sure I was accurate. I read it again in the big, bold, black lettering. It says, if you lie on any of these questions, that is punishable by a felony.
Yes. And it's years in prison. And that's a felony charge. And, it's supposed to be actually a federal charge.
Well, even the FBI in January of this year said anybody violates federal gun charges, that's going to be a felony. We're going to prosecute you, and we're going to hold you accountable, and you're going to prison. And it's ironic. Hunter Biden seems to squeak by on this.
Yeah, and that is something that we all scratch our heads at. I'm heavily involved in the gun industry, and we've watched his father time and time again. His failed gun control policies that have killed more people than not. You're talking about a man who's standing up there and is very adamant about gun control. The school shootings and the AR-15 is to blame and this and that. You would think that the top priority would be gun safety. And then we watch his son get charged with something that we all would get charged with in this country.
Well, then his daughter-in-law just casually throws a gun in a trash can. But see, now the media and Democrats are talking about, well, because they talked about Hunter Biden pleading guilty, and then all of a sudden 2 days later, he's going to a state dinner with, Prime Minister Modi of India. But here's the other thing. They're talking about, he's a loving father, taking care of his son. Yeah, they make it sound like Joe Biden's a family man. It's ironic that he doesn't say anything about his son who fails to pay child support, and he doesn't say anything when he talks about deadbeat dads, and he talks about how good of a family man he is, but says nothing about his son refusing to accept his daughter and doesn't want his daughter to take his name. And even Joe Biden doesn't even recognize his granddaughter, who's 4 years old, and Jill Biden writes a children's book and dedicates it to 6 grandchildren when they have 7.
I think it's more Jill than Joe, though. I think Jill's just like a little bit jaded on the like the Hunter oops baby, and she's just kind of like,
But either way, whatever the case may be, that child, that 4-year-old little girl, needs to know who her father is. She's a person. And if you're going to be playing the family values thing and you refuse to acknowledge your granddaughter, no matter how the granddaughter came about, whether it's through your children are married or it's a one-night stand that he had, that's still a child.
Mm-hmm.
Now, can you imagine if Don Jr. or Eric Trump
that'd be in the news still today.
Donald Trump refused to recognize his granddaughter, or at the Christmas, the stockings they hang in their home, they have all the grandchildren and even their dog or cat.
Well, they would they would definitely be counting the stockings.
So
they would probably see a picture that didn't have all the stockings in there. They'd be like, Trump didn't do this, and then all of a sudden, but there would be a different picture showing.
But see, this is the whole thing. If Trump did something illegal, then he should be held accountable for his crime. The problem where everybody's having is they see the scale of justice go one way. They see prosecutors like Letitia James in New York, the Attorney General. You see Alvin Bragg campaign, we're going to get Donald Trump. We're going to get Donald Trump. Now think about it here.
They even moved laws so they could get Donald Trump.
You may not agree with anything I'm saying, but think about this. What happens if a prosecutor says, I'm going to get elected and I'm going after this person. No matter what, I'm going to go after this person.
Well, okay, hold on. Trump did that when he was, campaigning against Hillary.
All Trump said is, Trump said, well, lock her up. But when he became, it's not what he said, is what he did. Okay. Everybody's focusing on what Trump said. I would like to focus on, look what the Democrat did. When Trump was in office, he never went after his political opponents. He never weaponized the DOJ, the intelligence community, or the FBI. The Democrats did. They weaponized the DOJ, the FBI, and the intelligence community. And the reason we know that, because John Durham did his report, and even he came up to the same conclusion with the IG, Michael Horowitz, who was appointed by Barack Obama.
I'm wondering, going back, I was thinking when you were just saying that, I think when these people actually said, provide your evidence, and I jokingly said about the submarine, I actually think that people don't really know what went on the last week and a half because of the submarine story instead of being told of what's been going on.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
But even deeper than that, I think a lot of people may not know because only a few news outlets have been covering this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How many people know about the laptop that it was authenticated in November 2019, had all these information in. You had Tony Bobolinsky, who was Hunter Biden's business partner. He was interviewed by the FBI.
Right.
And he told them that the big guy was Joe Biden. So if Bobulinski is lying, he can be held accountable for lying to the FBI. So this is where the media is now coming on board because it's too big of a story. They have to report it, but they're going to have to let their listeners. This goes back a couple years.
Where does Adam Schiff get involved in this? Because they also censored him as well, and he is tied to this. What was it, last week or 2 weeks they decided to censor?
Yeah, Adam Schiff got involved with this because, not on this case, when the Republicans took back the House and they took over officially in January, they removed him from the Intelligence Committee because when he was the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee and he was pushing this Russian collusion narrative, he was on every news program. I've seen the evidence. It is front and view. It's more than circumstantial. And then when it came time to present it with all these, like John Durham, there was no evidence. And remember, I think it was during the first impeachment, Adam Schiff changed the words around, which was putting in a false evidence. And even on the January 6th committee, he altered evidence, and even the January 6th committee had to rebuke him and said that's not accurate. So that's why they kicked him off. They censored him because he used his position, his classified position. Because when you're the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, you see the exact same intelligence that the president sees.
Mm-hmm.
So he used his position for ill-gotten gains and pushed a narrative that was false, and he knew it was false.
Well, can we talk about CNN releasing the audio recording of Trump talking to somebody about...
Yeah, he was talking to a reporter, and he mentioned that he had classified documents or confidence talking about an invasion plan of Iran. Now, they haven't seen the evidence of what was presented, but the one thing I would like to throw this out, why is everything when Trump does is leaked?
Mm-hmm.
How come nothing got leaked from David Weiss? Nothing gets leaked when Democrats are being investigated, but when a Republican gets investigated, it's leaked. Now, whether it's right or wrong for what Trump did, I'm not trying to sugarcoat it, but all I'm saying is, why is the standard different for one and not the other?
Let's backtrack for a second because I think Ray is onto something because there's way more. Did just text because this happened last week. Did they censor Shift? And
they did.
When?
Last week, right?
They censored Schiff last week. Yeah, it was.
A submarine story took a hold last week.
Titanic 2 kind of engulfed everybody.
It was one step below, I think, expulsion. That they could expel a member, but they did censor Adam Schiff, and he came up on the well of the Congress, and then he gave his little speech. I'll take this as a badge of honor, but they did censor him.
Okay. What's the name? Jamie something. Mercado? Yeah, Mercado. I said facts. Okay, facts. Nuclear weapon classified documents cannot be declassified by any president. Is that true or false?
I would have to go back to. I would think that's true, but I have to go back to verify. I'm not positive.
But no one's saying that.
No one's saying he declassified that.
But also, no one's saying that he showed anybody that either.
Correct.
Because there was no indication in the audio recording.
No, that he
was like.
That's correct. That's
hey,
correct.
You want to see how nuclear missiles made?
No, nobody said that. Certain things cannot be declassified. I know that, especially like nuclear codes. That cannot be declassified. But that's not what Trump is.
Imagine Trump be like, okay, everybody, the number is 0399533.
No, you know who did that? Good old Milley, General Milley, with the nuclear football and talking to a general after
Did he really
the
do
election.
That?
Yeah.
Well, but even Joe Biden, if you listen to a speech he said with Prime Minister Modi, he said, I've shown you something about classified or material or something like that. There's something he said that everybody's like, what the heck does he say? What did you mean by that? So
someone should also know it's not that really hard to get top secret clearance. If you have about like I don't know, like $8,000 and a clean record, you'll get top secret clearance.
Well, the other problem is the Washington Post, I think it was 2015, did an article, I think it was titled like Secret Nation, and because of 9/11, there's been an explosion of individuals who are getting classified documents or classified clearance.
Yeah.
And whether that's good or bad, that depends who you are and what they're trying to do. But the government overly classifies things when things shouldn't be classified. It's just like the FBI when they were talking about this I think it's called 1023. It's a form that they had that said that there was an allegation that Joe Biden receiving a call from the Burisma executive where $10 million was given.
Yeah.
And there was 15 calls to Hunter, 2 to Joe, and this Burisma executive has the audio recordings of that. Well, the FBI refused to show it to the House when, in fact, that was unclassified. It's an unclassified document.
So why would they be so tight about it?
Because that's the question. We don't know, and the other ways we can speculate.
Go up there, if it's declassified, okay, let's just go for classification, declass. Could Ray and I look at the document because it's declassified?
Oh, I have to check my security clearance.
No, you don't. Do you need a security clearance?
When it's unclassified, anybody can look at it. Basically,
okay, so we could go to the SCIF if we wanted to and look at it.
Well, that wouldn't even be kept. Shouldn't even be kept.
Well, it shouldn't be kept in a SCIF, but we could just once all of Congress gets a look-see, John, Joe, and Ray can go into SCIF and be like, "Hey, let me take a picture of this with my cell phone."
So Jamie came back and said, "Why Trump had nuclear weapons classified documents recovered by the FBI?"
The question is, we don't know. The FBI hasn't stated to this point what was brought in on those boxes that he had.
Anything in the charges? Did you look at the charges?
I looked at the charges, but they haven't said what was in the boxes.
Okay.
What is the period of time?
Well, how does Jamie who's telling Jamie that it was nuclear stuff?
Yeah, that would be a good point. If he could tell me,
is that the media or?
Well, if Jamie's still on the thing, type in where you got that information that it was nuclear, so I can go back and reference that.
Okay.
But we still don't even know what classified material were found in the 8 to 10 Biden residence and office space.
It was telling China and Ukraine how to conquer us.
But see, the question is, we don't know what was in their documents. Neither do we know what was in the classified documents that they were seized by Trump. Now, the paperwork you saw on the floor that was picture taken, that was staged. We know that.
Okay, but you know what? I think something kind of came to mind is, okay, so the Bidens are making all this money, but what is maybe the Biden family providing to, say, Burisma or Ukraine or China? What are to get that money?
That's the question we don't know. We know money came into the Biden campaign, the Biden family.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what they got in exchange for that.
So Jamie said, look at the indictment.
I got a few, guesses stabs I could take at what our exchanges.
I'll go back.
I'm just saying,
we don't know
if they're getting a lot of money from this. What is it that they're giving?
We don't know.
Yeah, but
we still don't.
I think that would be a good question, because if it puts us in jeopardy or if it puts us in danger, that's one thing.
Well, because we know, with China, he's been very soft on China, but we don't know what they got in return.
But it almost seems like he's giving a lot of money to Ukraine, including losing $6 billion here and there. We're really kind of pulling for Ukraine to kind of pull out of this Russia thing. Is Ukraine just a money laundering for the Democrats?
The one thing what you talk about what they got is dealing with China. Hunter Biden was involved, or allegedly involved, because it's still allegedly, involved in giving China access to the lithium and key rare earth minerals in the Congo to make going into electric vehicles. So the key is we still don't really know.
Maybe a balloon flying.
And this is what's going to have to come out. But what did they get to that's the question. What did they get to receive so far, these $10 million?
Mm-hmm. But couldn't you just look at the information that were in the Biden residence and,
that's the thing,
kind of assess?
Well, there was one building, there was one storage, so there was on the Biden compound. They were barred from looking that Hunter Biden had access to and stored stuff in.
And then, with the Mayor Garland kind of somebody let Biden or Hunter Biden know, hey, they're going to look at your stuff, so you might want to get rid of it.
These are all ample questions, but think about this. What you just brought up, that's far different than the questions they gave or how they handle anything dealing with Donald Trump. They seized Donald Trump stuff, but they wouldn't go into. They allowed Joe Biden and his attorneys to take the lead and picking up all the classified materials under those residences.
Okay, well, Jimmy did say, I guess we have to wait for John Smith. Who's John Smith?
John Smith.
That just sounds like a generic name. John Smith. I don't know.
I guess we have to wait for John Smith.
We have to wait for Tim Jones.
Jamie, I wonder if that's... I'm just throwing this out because when they say John Smith, I wonder if this is one of the guys I work for.
Oh,
because and if they're working for where I work for, it's not John Smith, it's Joseph Smith.
Maybe. No, does Jamie argue with it a lot?
I'm gonna beat that guy's ass.
All right, so wrap it up. How can they go ahead and find us, John?
You can find us on go to ubaldireports@gmail.com. That's ubaldireports@gmail.com. Or you can check us on all the streaming sites where the podcasts are placed. Check us out on our social media platform. Now, next week, we're going to do a little different. We're not going to do it on a Wednesday because of the holiday. So we're going to do it on Monday at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. And this time we're going to talk about, it'll be like 4th of July. Just
America.
Freedom,
hot dogs.
If you're anti-gun, it's not your holiday.
Yeah, not today. But if you're wearing an American flag T-shirt, you're what's it called? You're a domestic terrorist.
Yeah. But before I let off, keep following Ubaldi Reports. We're trying to do this every day. We love your comments. Even those that may not agree with us, we do love your comments. But before we sign off, turn this over to Joe and Ray to talk about the podcast they do. So, Joe and Ray, it's all yours.
Ray and I, we do a podcast called All American Gunslingers, but it's also, you're following us in the life and times of trying to open up our own gun shop, gunsmith repair shop, and gun range all at the same time, while we also discuss whiskey. We also talk about guns, and we also describe and go into great detail about other stuff we cannot talk about on this show. So you can get a hold of us, and the website's coming up soon where it gives you a lot of information, even ordering your own gun. So with that, and then also hang on to TikTok after we're done, and we'll answer your questions as they come up, and we will talk to you guys soon.
All right, so keep following Ubaldi Reports, and we'll keep following us.